Hey guys, what is going on? Welcome back out to the channel. I have an awesome video for us today. It's about relics and GAC. Now, before we get into the video, I just want to shout out all you guys that have subbed to the channel. You guys truly mean a lot. I just want to thank you guys. We're getting closer and closer to our 1,000 subscriber goal. So if you guys haven't subbed to the channel yet, I would greatly appreciate you guys doing so. Also giving a like to the video helps, and sharing it with your guildmates and your friends. All that stuff helps, guys. So I just want to again acknowledge you guys and give you guys a huge shout out. Like I said, guys, this video is going to be about GAC and relics. Now, you missed out on it. There was an announcement with a new GAC that beyond the first GAC, basically we're not going to be matched up on GP alone anymore. That's kind of how the matches used to be. It is now going to take into account how skilled you are, what's your win-loss record, and all those things. There's going to be multiple factors, but GP is not going to be one of them. They made that abundantly clear. So with that said, the previous thought was, hey, you don't want to just go out and relic people because it just creates unfair matchmaking. I don't think now people took it too far where they wanted to kind of game the matchmaking, and then other people just didn't really care about matchmaking at all and then just went all out anyways. So if you were kind of in that middle ground, this is definitely a video that's going to be great for you. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Okay, guys, like I said, in Galaxy of Heroes, this is still a resource management game. You can't just go out and relic everyone. So I'm just going to give you a couple options, that I thought of. Some of them were Galactic Legends requirements. Some of them were just characters that we said, hey, this is a good character, but I can't continue to push on because, again, it's going to affect my matchmaking and maybe tilt it to the side where it's just a little bit unfair for myself. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it, guys. I created some from kind of each faction that I thought of that I was like, hey, this is a really good one. Okay, so the first one that I'm going to talk about is kind of troopers. And this one is Dark Trooper. I used to have him at R8. He used to be, the trooper team used to be a Galactic Legend killer. And those teams were like what I was all about. I wanted to be able to kill anything that I saw. And Dark Trooper was part of that, right? So he was a relic 8. I'm not saying you have to put him up there again, but I think like you should be getting him to relic 5 to 7. Like he's a legitimate character because of Piet. He and the rest of the trooper squad are kind of like this thing that feels like their shelf life, I guess, if you will, is going to be extended really long time because of Piet again. So I think he's a safe bet. You're going to want the damage, especially in 3v3. R5 just sometimes isn't enough. Sometimes you just want massive amount of damage. So Dark Trooper for me is one of those. Moff Gideon, he's kind of like this plug and play character. Now, you don't need him at R7, but I think like R3 to R5 is like a good spot for him. You can see right now I have him at R0 just because I wanted the speed boost. And it wasn't really the fact that, I couldn't afford, or I didn't want to bring him up any additional relic levels. It was just more the fact that, like, hey, I had so much signal data that was tied up to Galactic Legend requirements. But I guess what I'm trying to say with him is the relic levels for him are more about survivability and less about, hey, how much damage is he going to do. If you're putting him on defense, right, usually the opposing player knows that like they got to target him so that way they can get their damage nerfs off of them. But if you make him a little bit harder to kill, right, those damage nerfs stay for longer. It gives your team a little bit longer to get the foot or get their feet underneath them and maybe potentially rip some banners or, actually just win the fight itself. So for me, Moff Gideon kind of makes sense here. He seems like the kind of guy that like R3 to R5 makes sense. Okay, next one is Separatist. So I have B1 in here. For those that don't know, I have an 8.1 million GP account, so I face other accounts that were similar to mine. And I was impressed by how many people just have like a Relic 3 B1 battle droid. Now, I think at 5 he's good. I think at 7 is probably where I'm gonna want him eventually. And it's hard because a lot of people know that Grievous really is the damage dealer. And it's true, he is. He's by far the biggest damage dealer. The thing with B1 though is he is a sneaky damage dealer because you're not going to ever notice it, right? Like you're not going to be like, wow, my B1 just one shot someone. It's just he is the setup guy for Grievous, right? He's the setup guy. His AoEs start just slowly chipping away at all those people's health and protection. And then that's what sets up Grievous for those massive AoEs to just come in and kill 2 or 3 of their guys, right? And when you do that, your B1 is really the one that's setting all that up. So when you add relic levels to him, he's going to get, a little bit more offense on him, and he's going to just, like I said, deal damage. He's assisting all the time. And so for me, B1 Battle Droid is a guy that you're going to want up at the higher relic levels. All right, the next one in the Separatists is Geospy. I'm, again, 8.1 million GPA account. I can't believe how many times I just see like a full Gear 12 Geo Squad, or they'll have like Gear 13 GBA, and then like all Gear 12 rest of the Geos. Geospy is the finisher on that team. He is the damage. He can start loading up hits for 250k to 300k. Like, it is insane. Like, he can just absolutely take over. They are a great GL's cleanup squad. When you have a decent relic Geospy, they can actually just go on offense and just be an amazing offensive team, because you're just able to wipe out. My Geospy has killed like Relic 7 Nest before, just because of the stacking stealths. And so with him, he's a guy that, again, like, I might even bring him up to R7. He's just that guy on that team. So another one that I would say, hey, like the 5 to 7 is probably right for him. Okay, speaking of Nest, right? A lot of people on the stream know that I'm not a Nest hater. I just don't like Nest soloing as much. I used to love doing it way back when Grand Arena was just Grand Arena, not GAC. I used to love soloing things with Nest. Now, eventually I started losing some. And again, it was just like, hey, Nest is cool. I want to add relics to her. But, I can't just make her an R7. Like, it's just not me. I don't do that. But what I will say is, even if that's not you now, you don't have to worry about what the weight of Nest relics are going to do. Putting Nest in a squad absolutely makes me, at least me, whenever I see one that's like R5 to R7, I'm like, wow, I should bring some sort of Annihilate in here. Whether that's, Nihilus, OG Mando, like, there's not many of those in the game though, right? Like, there's just not. And so Nest at a high relic level really starts to make things difficult for a lot of different teams. And a lot of teams, again, you would maybe counter something with something, and you could just put her in that team, and then all of a sudden that counter might not work. Specifically looking at troopers, unless you can time it out right or something like that. So Nest for me makes a ton of sense here. Again, I know a lot of people will probably be surprised that watch the streams, but I think that this one makes absolute sense. All right, L337. This one is probably one that people weren't expecting, because she's a tank, right? People don't want tanks at high relic levels. I'm telling you right now, if you've ever faced a high relic level L337, and that's been properly modded, this tank, it can go anywhere. She's great. She's like an auto taunting tank. She self cleanses. She re-heals. Like, there's so much that she does, and it can be so frustrating if you've never played a relic, 5 to 7 L337. Like, you don't know what pain is yet. Because yeah, she's just great. So again, that's one of those situations where it's like, man, I really just want to annihilate and just annihilate her. Like, that's just usually what ends up happening. So another one for you guys to think about in the Scoundrels lane. Okay, this one's kind of a little bit of a cheat, guys. I'm not gonna lie. I said that Sith Trooper's a Sith. This is really more for the First Order. Right now, the counters for SLKR are seeming to be growing, but what I will say is that if you're trying to kind of off meta counter, Sith Trooper that is tanky, and obviously relic levels add tankiness to characters, even if it's not in their mastery, so to speak. Killing Sith Trooper can be a difficult thing, especially in an SLKR team where everyone, or it seems like everyone's taunting, and the people that aren't taunting, you want to get to them first. So with Sith Trooper, guys, his damage, is going to increase. He's going to be assisting all the time. This was a GL requirement, so a lot of us just left him at R5. But I'm telling you, at R7, he's a little bit different. He hits a little bit different. He's, like I said, a little bit harder to kill. You're not going to just kind of kill him on an AoE, or even if you're just kind of trying to focus down on him, if you mod him to be a little bit tanky with some offense on him. Another one with the Sith, actually funny enough, like we're talking about tankiness, is Sith Empire Trooper. Now, I have him on R3. I would guess that a ton of people don't even have him at gear 13, just because he's not a requirement. He's a great auto taunting tank, but here's the thing that I'll tell you. This guy is incredibly, incredibly thick. If you've ever faced a high relic Sith Empire Trooper, you'll know that a team that has a ton of offensive potential, like Troopers, with a even high relic level Dark Trooper, just absolutely makes them feel like they're tickling Sith Empire Trooper if they're properly modded and everything like that. Like, it is insane how much this guy can get, or how thick this guy can get. And with relics, he gets even that much thicker. So that's a guy that I think that people should consider more often. And yeah, it definitely helps. He's got so much internal mechanics that, like, hey, he's gonna get defense and defense up, right? Like, and it's just like, wow, that's just so incredibly amazing for this guy, because he's just super, super thick. All right, next one are the Jedi. So the Jedi are a really, really important faction. People dog on them a lot, but there's a ton of amazing leaders in the Jedi faction. With that said, though, a lot of the Jedi end up, the premium ones, the premium guys that are dealing good damage, that are really, really, really good, end up kind of falling short a little bit, or you end up not being able to kind of piece together multiple teams, right? There's so many good leaders. It's like, but you can't really create the teams to make all of them go. So Cam is absolutely one of those Jedi that does premium damage, that does amazing damage. And I've seen so many people leave him at R5. This guy is an R7 minimum. All right. I think he absolutely is in the discussion for R8. And yeah, like, I just think that a lot of people, you need to get him up to 7, or yeah, to 7. That's like the floor for him. So, Cam is a no-brainer for me. There are some other ones in here, right? But they were GL requisites, right? So a guy like Gas, he's another guy that does premium damage. A guy like, and he's an R8 requirement. A guy like JKL, he's a GL requirement. Now, I think the answer is obvious. You take him to R8, but for certain people's rosters, right? Again, limited resources. At R7, which was his GL requisite, is fine. Again, GMY was at R8. So these were the reasons why I didn't include all those guys. But those guys are the premium guys, and Cam is one of them. Don't leave him at R5, guys. Bring him up to 7 at a minimum. Okay, Jolie Bindo. I put Jolie in here because a lot of times this is your your last call kind of thing, right? This is your last ditch effort. A Jolie Bindo at relic 5 to relic 7 is extremely thick, and as long as that guy is alive, your entire Jedi team is alive as well. So unless you're going against something that says, like, hey, they can't be revived, which in that case I would question why you're bringing Jolie into that team. But all that to the side, guys, like this guy is really, really thick. There's a ton of teams that really depend on him being able to revive, right? There's quite a few Jedi that even with high relic levels, they're still pretty squishy. Jolie Bindo kind of solves that problem. So he's on there for me. Okay, Sith Empire, guys. Every single time that I'm like, oh, guys, Sith Empire, they're done, right? Someone else is introduced. And right now, Talon is that person for me. I know she can go with other teams and other people who are theorcrafting, but to me, right, the 20 speed, it just seems to really match with Imp Troopers, 30% max health, right? Like some offense, you'll lose the crit damage, but again, you know, that 30% offense will help make up for some of that damage that you lost. For me, guys, you know, like I had these guys at R3 for the longest time, and then I was like, man, you know what? These guys deserve R5. Right now, I'm going to tell you right now, I think they deserve R7, right? Like both of these guys, more damage, more health, more, you know, of their own mastery. Just they're every single time it feels like, hey, this team is finally dying off, right? I just the mechanics of this team because of ferocity and just the immediate turn interruptions and the fears and just everything about them makes me just say, well, let's just make them a little bit more survival, make them hit a little bit harder, and make them a little bit faster. Like that's the biggest thing with Sith Empire. So for me, Darth Revan and Darth Malak are shoo-ins for R7 as well. All right. This one's kind of cheating, I know, but I have the Rebels on there. You guys, we'll kind of break this down. I originally only had Han and Chewie on here because those were GL requisites. They were at R6. I think at R7, like that's kind of again the floor for them. You're not gonna find. It's all about the opening blast, right? And that's why I put these two on there. When these two are on a team and they're at the R7 range, there's not too many characters out there that are going to survive the hits, right? Like that opening initial blast. You're immediately, and because again, Han's always going to shoot first unless there's a faster Han. You're always going to make the battle a 5v4 almost right off the bat, right? Doesn't matter about who takes the next turn or whatever. The fact that you're making a 5v4 on first turn is just amazing. Blast damage is a thing. And the other added, you know, I guess, effect of getting these guys to R7 is they have an amazing ship. Now, people will say, hey, Relic Bistan is what makes them so great. I agree with that. I do think that Relic Bistan and Relic SRP are the guys that really, really elevate that that fleet. But what I will say too is that if you bring Bistan out of the lineup, it's still a pretty good fleet. If you bring Hans Millennium Falcon out of that lineup, it is absolutely nothing. Like it's not a actual fleet. So they're really, really important. Them hitting hard, them being survivable, them trying to maybe survive an opening blast is important. So for me, it's those guys. And this team just is kind of like Sith Empire. Like every single time that they kind of maybe disappear a little bit, like something happens and it's like, okay, these guys are still good, right? Like this is now going to be my team that counters this Omicron, right? And like this is like how this team is has been around for years now. All right, so now we'll talk about CLS and 3PO and Chewie, right? So CLS, again, if we're talking about blast damage, right, with 3PO and Chewie or Chewbacca or whatever you want to call him, he's adding, first off, he's adding his own in there because he's always assisting, but he's also adding his unique in there, right? And his unique derives off of the leader. Now, I know a lot of people have CLS at like an R3 range. I think like there's legitimate, you know, cause to bring him up to R7, you know, because again, if CLS has more offense and more survivability, that means the rest of your team has more offense and survivability, which means that your opening blast is stronger. That means every single time that 3PO and Chewie is assisting, he's stronger. And so that's why they're on there, guys. And then specifically for 3PO Chewie, again, he's assisting every single time a rebel takes an attack, bumping him up a few relic levels from the GL requisite of JML. Not a bad idea when he's constantly assisting, much like a Sith trooper or one of those characters, right? When he's constantly assisting, that's always a good thing. And then the other thing with that too is his AoE blast, as long as you've got that Zeta on him, again, can really stack up and can be really amazing. So for me, the Rebels are just one of those ones where it was just like, man, it was so hard to pick, so I just picked them all. But yeah, guys, that's gonna cover it. Let me know in the comment section below who you're thinking about, or if I missed someone or something like that, or check out our Discord, which the link will be in the description below. Guys, thank you guys so much for watching this. Remember to leave the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. My goodness, I can't say that word. And we'll see you guys in the next one.